With every bogu you get, there's a couple of things you need to do in order to make sure that it has the right shape. You want to do this not only because it looks good, but also because it's gonna make it more comfortable and give you the best protection it can. For me, this is very important because it's what gives that first impression to your partner, judges. Also, it's kind of one of those little details that show that you know what you're doing. Before I start, quick shout out to Kendo because they sent me the bogu that I'll be using for today's video. It's the Myrmidon set for the Vanguard series. Andy Fisher contacted me, sent me this bogu to try it out and give you my opinion. So if there's something that interests you, make sure you subscribe so you see that video when it comes out. Also, he's giving us 10% discount, so make sure if you go there, use the code Kendo Tips for a 10% discount. He also wanted me to let you know purchases around the world for $85 or more get free shipping, and for most cases they cover the import cost. Leave me a comment if you end up using the discount code at Kendo. Anyways, the first thing I like to do when I get a new set is to make sure that I check the fit of the kote and find out where I have pressure against my fingers, where it's uncomfortable, and I try to stretch the leather. I like to use something like the handle of a mallet or maybe a drumstick, something that's not rough or doesn't have any edges. In this case, I used this tiny shinai that I have. I was having problems at the tip of my fingers and at the tip of my thumb. I just make sure to hold the leather at the edge to make sure it doesn't pull any stitching or anything like that. And I try to find a place where I'll have pressure and stretch out the leather that way. If you have a better way, please let me know down in the comments, but it works very well for me. Another thing you can do is that you can grab a shinai, make sure that you have the proper grip on it as if you're wearing kamae, and with a rubber or wooden mallet, you want to hit it around to make sure that it takes the right shape around the shinai. Make sure you don't use metal, you don't use anything rough, you don't want to damage the kote. You can also put a towel on top of it to make sure that you keep protecting the kote. But I think that this also really helps with shaping the kote, not only to your hand, but also to your grip. This, I think, is very important, especially when you get stock kote, because there's always going to be something that you're going to compromise. It's not going to be a custom fit, but even for custom kote, it helps a lot. After the palm has been taken care of, I like to also work the wrist. I just make sure that I work around all the mobility of the wrist. And these kotes are very mobile, so they didn't really need that much. Once you feel comfortable with all of this, you need to make sure that you fix the hemo. Please fix the hemo. Don't let them hang. Another thing that people like to do, they like to weave inside of them because they don't like to cut the hemo. If they're too long for me, I prefer to cut the hemo. What I like to do is I like to make sure that I put my kote on and I try to make sure that everything has the right tension. You want to start pulling the hemo, so make sure that get the right shape, and then you make sure that everything has the right tension, everything looks nice and neat. At the end, what I like to do, I like to make sure that I tie it and then I cut the excess. If I have to cut the excess, because to be honest, this kote didn't need to. I actually did this cutting just to show, but after you cut it, seal it up with tape. Transparent tape works better. I use blue just because it was easier to see. Make sure that everything looks nice and neat and that you have full mobility with your kote after you're done. It should be relatively easy to put your kote in and take it out. For the dough, it's pretty simple. What you want to do is you want to put the hemos on, and if they are too long, you're just going to cut the excess. But because this is very similar to what I'm going to do with the men, I'll talk about it in a second. The tie is also something that you don't have to spend too much time on it. What I like to do is I like to start shaping it as I am in practice. I don't really do anything to it before I go to the dojo. Okay, now we go for the men. This one I think is one of the most important as well, and a lot of things get neglected when working on the men. So let me talk to you a little bit about them. First, put in the hemo. The chichikawa goes on like this. You want the folded side of the leather towards the inside and not towards the outside. It not only looks good, but it's also gonna make sure that this lasts the longest. Then to put the hemo, you put the loop end of the hemo through the outside of the chichikawa. Then you put the other side of the hemo through that loop and make sure you just pass it all the way. After you're done with that, you want to bring them around, pass them through the top, and pass the end of the hemo from under the top bar of the man. Now the fun part. I actually made another video about this, about shaping the men, and you can go there to see more details into this. I'm just gonna give you the brief version here. You gotta make sure that you do this before you put your men on the first time. Normally the men is round when you first get it. You want to make a flat surface at the top. What I like to do, I like to squeeze it in to make kind of a little bit of a triangle shape from the back. This will be really helpful, especially if your hemo come undone so your men doesn't just fall off. Also, it just looks better. Then you want to make sure that you close the bottom side of the triangle with the hemo, and it should be at the same level where your monomi should be. So if you see the monomi is right here, the end of the triangle should end up being right here, which also happens to be the same spot where this man has the change of direction of the stitching. And that's on purpose, by the way. Once you tie the hemo on the back, it should look something like this. So after you have this right here, what you want to do, you want to start shaping the mendare, and there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can bring the mendare to the front like this, and then use the hemo to hold it in place, or you can roll them forward like this as well, and again, use the hemo to hold them in place, put them on top of a flat surface like this, and it should take the right shape as it is. Depending how you like the mend, you're gonna have to do it differently, but I will suggest experiment, or maybe if you find a mend that you like, let me know that in the comments below. Maybe we can figure out how to get that specific shape. That being said, this is something that you may want to do a couple of times, and I think it works best if you do this right after practice when the mend is a little bit moist. But all in all, your mend should start getting a nice shape. What you want to do, you want to avoid this type of shape on the mend, because then it doesn't give you the right protection on your shoulders, and it can also get on the way as you're doing your techniques. But there's one more thing you should do for your mend before you take it to that first practice, and it's to make sure that the hemo have the right length. When you get your hemo, they will be too long. That's on purpose. You want to make sure that your hemo are no longer than 40 centimeters. Between 30-35 centimeters, it's okay, but make sure it's no longer than 40 centimeters. And how do you do this? You want to put your mend on as you normally would. Make sure that the cross of the hemo on the back is right in the center and is at the same height as the monomi, right behind your eyes. You're gonna tie it up, and you're going to make the loops 40 centimeters or less. You wanna make sure that they're even, both sides, and you're gonna get the other side of the hemo, measure it up with the loop, and then cut right at the place where the loop ends. Don't be scared, because there's a lot of things you can do to make sure that you fix it if you cut a little bit extra. After you cut your hemo, you want to make sure that the end, the nut and the end of the hemo are 6 centimeters. So what I like to do is I like to measure maybe at around 5.5 centimeters and unbraid the hemo. And once you have untied it at about 6 centimeters, what you want to do, you want to grab 3 strands from each end like this, and you want to make sure that everything's separated from those 3 strands. You want to use that to make double knot. You're gonna go from behind back to the front. You want to make a double knot on your hemo to make sure that it secures. And you're gonna see that it's a little bit like wavy at the end. If you want to fix that, all you need to do is just kind of dip this in a little bit of water and just stretch them out, and should be fine by the time you go to practice. Quick little thing, don't be worried if one of the hemos is slightly longer than the other, because remember, depending on how you tie the knot, one of the hemo are going to go around a little bit extra, so that's gonna make the other one a little bit shorter, so it's okay. As long as when it's tied, everything is even, you're good. Not gonna lie, this set was pretty easy to shape up, but if you would like to see the full review that I have coming up on that video, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel with the notifications on so you know when that video comes out. Now that you got some tips on your Bogu looking great, you may want to check out this video and a couple of extra tips of how to improve your Kendo. Also, if you got some value from this video, please take a second to hit the like button and share this with someone you want their Kendo to improve. Thank you very much for watching.